Committee. I would like to remind everybody that this meeting is being broadcast live on VCTV and recorded on YouTube. Is there anybody else in the room recording at this time? No takers? Great. That's a little open meeting law, like we learned last week, you know. So we have to announce that we're recording, and the chair's responsibility to announce if anybody else is recording in the room as well. So check that box off. It's going to be part of our opening moving forward. And first off, we will go through the approval of minutes for April 8th, 2025.
I looked at these and I thought, Zach had a lot of detail. He didn't need to even go to that.
That's what I aim for.
He had the details there.
It's like you already attended the training, Zach.
But I would make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes from Tuesday, April 8th.
All right, so we have a motion to accept minutes from Tuesday, April 8th.
Second.
Oh, the second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to new business. We did have a point of order request from Rutland Dispatch to move up the agenda. Is there any one that's not for moving him up? All right, we'll move it, especially since the clerk nor the Quabbin's here yet, so we're gonna bump him a little bit ahead of you guys. Sorry for that. He should be quick, he says, though. Yeah, you can bring that chair on up if you want. Yeah, you know, slide right on. How are you today, sir?
Great, and yourself?
Oh, hanging in there.
Sorry, you just got the package just recently. It is a little slimmed down, different from last year's 60-page document down to 4 pages, a little easier to read. That's on the request of a new district board that was just formed. So just a little update. The district did pass. All the communities were for it, adopted the language. So we are officially a district now, no longer hosted under Rutland. So a little bit of that is now a chief financial officer or your town accountant will now be a part of the finance committee for the district. So all 5 communities will now have some say on the annual budget recommendation, fiscal policy decisions, financial reporting, and the assessment calculations moving forward. We haven't had any part of that, so now you guys have that share now. So that was a big doing, and now we can hopefully grow and expand and reduce those assessments even more moving forward. Any questions regarding that? All right. So just to jump in right away. So overall, the budget is moving up 5.1%. That's down from the 7.06% that was in version 2 of this budget. Sorry. So it went down, and that's due to the extra $41,000 in grant funding and the reduction of the health insurance figures that were projected at 19%, that went down to 15%. So that helped reduce that 7.06% down to the 5%. On this first page, it's just a summary of all the expense accounts. Moving off, salary and wages went up to $973,308.96, 4% increase. Benefits went up 7.46. Buildings and grounds, 4.5%. IT and radio system went up 6.64%. And then just general admin went up 0.59%. That's the summary of the entire budget. Grant funding went up from $539,000 up to $581,000. That's that extra $41,000 that we received for this fiscal year. Subtracting that from our total budget brings the total amount to $948,940.80 to be assessed to the communities.
Can I ask one question on the salary and wages? Are there any are there any vacant positions right now?
Right now, the only vacant positions that we have currently are part-time positions, and I think there's 4 of those slots vacant. All full-time positions are fully staffed at the moment.
Okay.
Knock on wood. Any other questions before I move on to the, okay. So moving on to the second page, a little bit more of a breakdown. Starting off with the wages again. Again, the payroll went up due to contractual obligations with the union contract. Same thing with the holiday, that falls under the same contract. Overtime we reduced, that's due to now being fully staffed, and the ample amount of part-timers that we have right now that can cover the time-off requests from all our dispatchers currently right now. So we were able to reduce that line item. And that's it on that. Again, like I said, the health insurance was projected at 19%, went down to 15%, so you see a lot of those reductions in that next section with the benefit and government costs. I just want to point out the green shaded boxes as we go down, those are not factored into the budget at all. They're just an example of what we can be seeing in the future as we become a district, obtain our own building, and acquire new communities. Again, a lot of those costs that you see in the green, yes, some of them are big numbers, but bringing in more communities will absorb most of those costs depending on the size of the communities that we bring in. Moving down, human resources and finance, we have nothing in there currently right now because we don't currently budget for any of that, and again, that's for future. Building and grounds, most of it was level funded, except for Department of Cellular Service. It's again due to AT&T's contracts, as well as the air cards. That was due to additional vehicles being added. So my department pays for all the air cards for all the police and fire departments in all 5 communities. Some of the communities have added additional vehicles to their fleets, so that's where that 17.86% increase came into play. Moving on to the IT and radio section, the big notable pieces are the 15% increase in the CGIS maintenance agreement. Again, have no control over that. That's a contract with the State Justice Department, and that's what they charge us. And then the other one is the 16.67%, all other hardware and support. That's due to our policy management, scheduling, and training system contract going up. And then the last one in that bucket that's big is the 17.8% radio maintenance and service plan. That's due to the Hubbardson Tower and the proposed, the projected South Barre Tower that should be going up. We're starting that project in the next couple of weeks, so there'll be a new tower in South Barre, which we'll have to start paying for as well.
About time.
Yes. And looking at right now at the fire department, so we'll see how that goes. But, supplies level funded except for the post office box that keeps on going up drastically each year. And that's it for the breakdown of the entire budget. The next page is just the summary of the state 911 grant funding that we received. Mainly the SMI grant, which is the support incentive grant. That is going up from the $539,000 up to the $589,000 due to the extra $41,000 that they'll cover one service contract throughout the entire budget. I picked the largest one, which is our TriTech CAD system, which I think is roughly this year 70,000-ish, 70,000. So they're going to fund us $41,000 for that, so that'll come back and reduce the assessments. The other grants there, we don't have those figures yet, as we still have to apply for July 1 for those. but those are some of the figures that you see that we do receive for training to offset all our training that we provide to our dispatchers throughout the year.
Those are from the state?
Yep, all three of these, the S&I training and
Yeah.
EMD grant are all from the state.
Okay, thank you.
And then lastly is just the breakdown of the community assessment percentages. And again, which tells back to the front page, due to the assessment percentages being different on the first page where you see the assessments, where the Barre's is 4.04% increase, and then you'll see Hubbardston's at 1.13. That's due to the change of population within the communities that was certified. So that's why those are different and not equal across the board.
Yeah, and that's essentially the same rate per person, right?
Correct. Yep.
According to the census.
Yes, and those assessment figures, they were originally, in the last version of this budget, were at 11.22%. So we brought those drastically down for communities.
Excellent. Good.
Any other questions? That's all I have with my 4-page document.
So in the interim with moving to the district model, there are some, roles, I guess, like the treasurer role. Is that a paid position, or is there a stipend position for the treasurer for each town through this budget?
So currently, right now, with that, there's gonna be an MOU established to just keep the town of Rutland's fiscal, whoever's running the fiscal right now, just keep that in place until the district can figure out what they wanna do there. If Hubbardston wants to move it to Hubbardston, MOU, and we'll have to come up with a figure. I believe that was in here in one of these as an example. Just see here. It was in here, I don't know why it's not in here, but we did have a figure in there, a cost that the district would have, and that would just be assessed out to the fire department.
And we're confident that won't affect us in FY '26 though?
Correct, everything for FY '26 is gonna stay the same. You should expect some changes in FY '26.
FY '27?
Yes, yeah. And also with that, with the district, and if we do grow, the state 911 does have a portion of their grant where you can apply for these key positions, so like that treasurer or whoever's gonna be the accountant, payroll, all that can all be funded for 3 years, 3 full 12-month periods,
Mhm.
funded by the state for the first 3 years.
Okay.
So possibly may not see any increases moving forward as well for 3 years.
So the change we saw on the presentation, some of this is related to the increased grant of 45,000.
Yep.
I think in the presentation in Rutland that some of us attended, it had us closer to an 8%. Is that because you had some of those figures factored in with the district model?
Correct, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And now that you got everyone is moving, like you're officially a district now,
Yep.
congratulations on that effort.
Thank you.
When do you think they'll anticipate the district to start voting on incorporating new other towns into the region?
So, good question. So currently, right now, we are in talks with 6 to 8 communities right now, which has a deadline with this due to the state 911 grant funding. It's a development grant which has already been submitted back in March. Awards come out in July. A lot of these communities are looking to regionalize sooner than later. And for us to do that, there's a bunch of moving parts. We need a new building, obviously. 900 square feet that we're working in right now is not doable for 6 to 8 communities to come into. So we're looking at a building, as well as commitment from these 6 towns, and would be possibly looking for a vote within the next month or so on whether we add these communities into the district or not.
And who's voting on that?
And the voting would be coming from the board of directors, which is made up of all the town administrators in the 5 communities.
Town administrators
Yep,
from each
town
town. Okay,
administrators, yep.
good.
So the board of directors would make that final decision, not myself. It would be them.
Right.
And with that being said, if they do sign on, the reason why we need to move quick is due to the development grant. I can go in and amend it and ask for the purchase of the building, which currently right now is $3.2 million. So I can amend it for that, as well as the renovation costs for this building as well.
That's
If not, that building could disappear, and then we'd be looking 2 to 4 years down the road, and savings could be a lot further out, so.
And I know you guys got that eye on that facility in Auburn. You just did the walkthrough, was it last week or the week before?
I think it was last week, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice building, has great potential, pretty much move-in ready. The only portion of the building that would have to be renovated is the warehouse portion, which would ultimately turn into the dispatch center itself. Rest of the building, offices, break room, and all the other amenities are already in place and need no work at all.
In terms of the board of directors voting, is it bring one town on at a time, or they vote to bring multiple towns on in one instance?
This group is looking to move as a group, so I think we could add them in one or two at a time, but we'd be looking at doing this all at once, because it would change the way we dispatch currently right now. Our whole model would change, so we wouldn't want to do one, keep it the way we are, then once we get to 3, change that model. We want to make that change right away. Ultimately, right now, the dispatcher is the one that picks up the 911 call, dispatches the officers and firefighters at the same time, and enters everything into the computer at the same time, all by themselves, with no other assistance. The model that we're looking at moving towards, if we do get these 6 to 8 communities, would have 911 call takers, police dispatchers, fire dispatchers. So you have one role, makes it easier. You can handle a lot more call volume, like a gentleman in Los Angeles who works for Los Angeles PD that we met a couple of weeks ago. He handles one radio that has about 80 officers on it, and that's his one job. So you can handle a lot more if you split the tasks up. So that's ultimately what we'd be looking for doing, moving forward with these 6 to 8 communities, because they're not small communities. They're large, and that's going to increase our call volume tremendously.
Yeah, and that'll eventually, I think it's a double-edged, like my opinion, you know, hopefully I'm wrong, I think it's a double-edged sword, because it'll drastically reduce, like, the rural towns that make up the district today, their assessment towards a regional dispatch, but then the rural towns quickly become outnumbered compared to the urban style towns and smaller cities. And my concern for the town of Barre would be not operational costs, but capital expenses down the road.
Which a lot of those capital costs can be absorbed by the state 911 department as well. Currently, right now, capital has been fully funded by the state 911 department since I've been in the position, and that's 13, 14 years now.
Okay.
Rutland has not funded any capital project, period, from my requests, and which, oh, actually, you know what, I have that, I can tell you right now, total capital costs right now, this is the next bill. Just 2 seconds here. I think it's close to like 13, 14 million, I think. I could forward it to you, but I think it's roughly around 13 million in capital funding projects that have been funded by the state 911 department over the last 13 to 18 years
Specifically for Rutland?
for Rutland and Barre and Montachusett and all the communities that are part of the
Okay.
current district.
Well, that's good news. I mean, because that's the only challenge if something changes is all of a sudden you have a community, you know, where your potential facility in Rutland is going to be much more modern than our town's, you know, fire department, right, and our fire station here. And I think it would be hard to talk to residents and say, oh, let's fund a $3.2 million regional dispatch that's not funded through a grant.
Right.
And
I agree.
not have a new facility here within our town
Yep.
that supports, the actual local community, and those dollars, those tax dollars are going right here towards our services. Not that your other services are not important,
Right.
but Auburn's a hop, skip, and a jump now
Oh, yes,
compared,
yes, yes.
compared to where we're located.
Definitely increases my commute.
Okay, no, I mean, that answers my question. Any other questions?
How about communications? Anybody studied what, how that's gonna be affected if you move to Auburn?
It shouldn't. Currently, right now, we handle Warren. They're 30 minutes away from us.
But not from Auburn, that's my question.
Well, Warren's that far away from us now. You guys would be probably that same distance
So it's
to
all,
Auburn.
depends on distance, hills and
No,
mountains don't make any difference?
No, as long as you can get a fiber connection or a microwave
All right,
connection.
you're in microwave then. You want-
Yep,
that's
so
all.
we have microwave going to Warren, so
Okay.
Warren to Auburn,
Okay,
make the loop. Soon to be Southbury, we'll have a great
Mm.
shot to some of those facilities as well. So-
okay, good. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions for Mike? As always, thank you for everything. We appreciate you and your service, and look forward to how things progress as a district.
Likewise.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Like,
Does anybody know if Quabbin's?
I'm not in the hospital yet. Okay. Yes, the Cheryl Duvall, she is at the hospital with her dad.
Okay.
Oh, okay, she is, okay, now, I don't know where Stacy or Colleen is, I texted to see if Colleen is coming.
I know Dave would normally come too, usually like one of the other
Yeah.
gentlemen from
The only thing I
the
can think of
committee.
is maybe think it starts at 7 or something?
Well, we'll give it time. We got Ellen up next with the town clerk, so if you wanna give her a run with your budget. And then we go, if anybody shows up, they're gonna Quabbin, gonna go last of it, We want Quabbin, come on. How are you, Ellen?
How are you?
Great. It was a good training last week, by the way.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You got it?
Yeah, did you hand it out?
Oh,
no.
yeah, that would be good. I didn't see
Keeping it
that.
a secret. Pass it along. You need another one? Over there. Oh, yeah. Ryan, there we go.
I'm good.
You got one?
Yep.
I'll take one, I guess.
You take one?
No, you can take
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You handed them out. Well, look at this, you're looking for a reduction. All right, you pass. There you go.
Yeah. Even though you're not an employee. You do that.
How are things going in the clerk's office?
They're going. We're pushing forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, so I finally got the walls painted. We finally got the floor in.
that's great.
Tammy was able to do that, through the ARPA money. So finally got some of the mold taken care of that was down there, so that was a good thing. We've got, a third, so that was one of my, accomplishments this year. We got the office a little bit reorganized. I was able to get, the third workstation installed, set up, so that's all up and going. So we have 3 complete, stations, which has been awesome. We've been able to, move things around and make it, so we have a little more room in there, which has been good. Been able to go through some of the records, and we had the shredding truck come. We were able to get rid of a lot of stuff that we no longer needed, and that neck retention, so we got rid of some stuff there. We got the mini splits put in the office.
Oh, nice.
We had 2 of those installed. The main purpose of that was to help with the mold down
And the
there.
humidity, yeah.
And the humidity,
Yeah, sure.
because it gets really damp, and actually, Maureen's not gonna wanna hear this, but I have a little puddle of water in my office again.
I don't wanna hear.
Is it the drain backing up?
I'm sorry. Yeah, but it's coming back in, so I do have a little bit of water. Again, not anywhere as bad as what it
Well, it was
was.
one time, yeah.
Right,
That's good.
and it's confined to one, just with a door.
Probably again, the drain from that back door.
Yes,
It's
so I
been
think that
humid,
that's
too.
something that we might have to look at some point. Other than that, as far as the office is concerned, things have been going pretty good down there. We made it through September and November elections. I'm still here.
And April.
And April.
And April, so that was all good, we made it all through that, all, no major issues or anything like that. Machines worked great, I don't think we, eventually that should be on a capital plan, the voting machines, because they are very expensive, but I think we've got quite a few more years on those, I shouldn't say that, but I did.
And those are owned by the town, right? The
Yes,
machines?
we own them, but we have contracts to service them.
Okay.
And they get after every election, they get tested and maintenance and all of that stuff. And then, they have like memory chips that need to be programmed for each election,
Okay.
those type of things. Which, those costs have gone up a little bit, so even though my budget went down, some things really did go up a little bit, in between, because there's no avoiding it. Everything's just ridiculously expensive.
Oh, yeah.
I was mentioning the mini splits. So when I got the mini splits, when I got the bid, the quotes and everything, and we were able to, I'm pretty sure we'll qualify for a rebate. So of that, we should be getting $3,500 back for the town off of that. I went out to get 3 quotes, and I only got 2 people that replied back to me. But one of them was for like $18,000 for the 2, and then the other one was like $9,000. It was like,
Oh, wow.
nice. So obviously we went with the lower priced. And then we were able to get the rebate. Well, hopefully Tammy's supposed to be applying for that. So that out of that, we got $3,500 of that back.
Oh, that's good.
That was great. The other thing I was able to do is, I did certify, I did the audit through the state auditor's office. I finished with that for the elections, and we should be getting back about $9,000 from elections that I was able to qualify for. So
Good.
that'll be a little bit back to the town too.
Nice.
Yeah, I was very happy to be able to get for that back for the town.
Is that based off of the national election, and, or is it the?
September and that's just on the September and the November elections.
Okay.
And it's basically the early voting expenses and
Oh, yeah.
vote by mail expenses.
Good.
A lot of it's postage for mailing out the kits.
Yeah.
Because every ballot is a kit.
That can't be cheap to do all those, huh?
No, it is very costly. And the biggest expense, like with all that too, is like the in-person early voting, because we have to basically run an election like every day, and, I have to call people in on Saturday, Sunday, or over the weekends, and
Yeah.
it's just expensive,
Easy.
no matter how you look at it. What else? I just have other things for 2025. Dog licenses, we're all rolled over, we're well into 2025, actually, the dog licenses are all due, they need to be licensed before June 1st, or they got their $20 late fee, so that's gonna be
It's the
starting.
first year I made it on time.
So I know what it's gonna do, get a license
I
before
did.
June 1st, or there'll be another
I
$20
even
late
went
fee.
in early this year, I was like, not getting my $20.
Yeah, like I said, and that's another thing, we had that third station set up, it's been working out fantastic. So I have Wendy in my office who comes in, and she's been handling pretty much all the dog licensing and stuff. She's been doing excellent, she's been coming in and really, getting that system up and going.
Nice.
So that's been very, very helpful, especially when we had a very busy year. Going forward, one of the other things for the office that I would like, and because Greg here. One of the things that I would like to do, and I didn't budget for it, I think it would be a town budget, is to get a couple more phone lines in my office. I know that I do have a phone line in my vault, that's supposed to be operational, but when we did the last, upgrade, for whatever reason, I think it's because my phone was a wireless phone that was in the vault. The line is still there, but it doesn't work with this system for some reason, so I would like to get another phone line installed in the vault, that works,
Yeah,
just in
that-
case.
That would be good, yeah. That would work.
We did have a lockout of the vault once, so I'd like to have that, lifeline there. And the other line would be for the third station that we just set up. I could really use another phone there, because it's just not practical to, when we're all trying to work, having to jump hoops to get to a phone. So that is something that I would maybe work on going forward. And again, I didn't budget for that, I thought that was more like a building maintenance thing. We have, I think Tammy's gonna address this with Greg, and that's the, Laserfish annual contract. I don't know if that's been budgeted for. Tammy was gonna look into that and make sure that that was in the budget for this year, but I just don't want that to get overlooked, just because that is, the amount here, it's like a $7,000.
I'll go back and look.
Yeah, okay. And maybe it is in with the IT stuff, but I just didn't want that to get overlooked because that goes way back. That's an ongoing thing there. Because it started from a grant, we got the grant, and then after the grant went away, we have the annual licenses that we have to pay for the software going forward and that type of stuff. So I think we can still apply for grants, maybe, going forward for some reason, maybe, to help offset that, but. So budget, no, I think we're done all that. Legal, I mean, I've had a lot more, with the legal, legal, I'm sure the town's legal expenses up some, because we've had a lot more interactions with them. The open meeting law training, most of you went.
Yeah, it was a great training. I think KP and Greg did, and the woman there, they did an excellent job. We even opened our meeting with some of that new language there about recording. So it was a good takeaway.
Yeah, and the laws are really complex too, and it's a lot to it. So even if you walk away with just a couple of things, right? I walked away with some stuff too, so I thought it was beneficial. That's something that it would be nice if we could implement something like that every year on an annual basis and have that, because our boards and committees are always changing and whatnot. So I think that would be very beneficial to us, because the more we learn and the more we know, the less mistakes we hopefully will make.
Yeah, I mean, especially the way things are advancing too, like email, social media.
Exactly.
Touching on all those points, like it's rather easy to have a quorum that you may not even realize that's there, just by viewing.
Yep.
So I thought that was rather important.
Yeah. So, in my budget, I just did one budget. I apologize, I know that they asked for two. I just did one. Everything is pretty much level funded. I did reduce, I put the 2.5% cost of living is included in this budget. So it's, the 2.5% is included in the town clerk's salary, it is included in the assistant town clerk's salary, and it is included in the administrative clerk's salary. So each one of those hourly rates has the 2.5% COLA added to it. So if they don't get the COLA, so that that's there. I have a reduction for the assistant town clerk, and that is because she's getting more hours for the planning board. And I was running into, because it's multiple positions, it goes over, I don't want it to go over 40 hours a week.
The combination between the different
between the two, and currently
responsibilities.
she was 22.5 hours a week for my department. And last year, planning board bumped her to 20 for the board's office. So that put her every week at 22 and a half hours a week of overtime, I'm sorry. Yeah, we put her over at 42 and a half hours
Yeah, so
every week, 2.5 every week, so, I was trying to keep that under that.
Mhm.
So what I did is I, reduced the hours there for her position and moved them to the administrative clerk's position, so that, those hours would balance out. Although I did end up going over with the administrative assistant hours by 2.5 hours, 2 hours. So it's actually increasing that one by 9.5 hours.
So is she only working 35 hours a week now?
Nope, she'll still be working, well, I don't know what, I'm assuming, I know she put in for hours for, additional hours for planning board, again, for this
Okay.
budgeted year, which will still keep her, I believe, at 39, I think it's 39 or 40 hours. I think it's gonna be 39 hours, it was supposed to be 40, but I ended up doing one less hour for my department, just to keep it, and just in case she can budget for the extra hour in the other office. But I just didn't want it to go over.
No, understood.
And having the assistant, the admin assistant town clerk, hours increased will cover that, so then I can actually, by doing it this way, I can actually have, the assistant work, should still be able to work 2 days a week. And then the administrative assistant will be able to do 3 days. So it will still balance out.
Excellent.
So that'll look. Other than that, there is an increase, pretty big increase for the vital records. That's mainly just cost increase from my census, the cost of my vendors going up for the census forms, for the price of the forms, for the price of the postage, for just a lot of that, and the confirmation mailings that we required to send out.
That went up a little bit, huh?
It did. That went up, let's see this. So for vitals, it's the census, it's the street listing, the cost of printing the street listing booklets, because those booklets are expensive to print. And I've reduced the number, I think I'm only printing like 50 of them. I've reduced it down, but it still doesn't, sometimes even when you print less, it costs more.
Yeah, because we don't have the threshold, right,
Yeah,
the break point.
and then, you know, it's just, you know, the cost of the ink and the paper and the envelopes and
Oh,
the,
yeah.
everything.
Yep.
But I think those were the only increases that I had. As far as, that. Have any questions?
I don't think I have any questions. I mean, you know, thank you for what you do down there. I know it's,
Thank you.
you run with a skeleton crew and do a lot for the town, and,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
I will
Get a
come
phone
down.
for that. Get a
I know, I
phone.
would like,
That seems
I
crazy.
mean, I have, we do have our cell phones.
that work?
Right?
Yeah.
And understand this,
It
but they
works.
don't always work through
No.
concrete.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, especially when you have concrete below, all, you know,
Right.
all around you on all sides and the door's shut, you know. But, so that's just,
Good, thank you.
thank you.
I can add one thing?
Yeah.
Call Monty Tech, he can do a lot of those projects for you.
Oh.
I mean, we were busy all this year doing an outside project, but we finished it up. So we would, well, I mean, cabinetry and stuff like that, some of the wiring, we can do mini splits, so.
Well,
Yes.
cross
Is there-
collaboration occurs.
Give us a
there.
call.
Yeah, is there,
We
is
did the
it-
fire
is-
station a few, 2 years ago. so.
is there a specific number to call?
If you ask for Brian Williams, he's our vocational director. And Brian's extension, because all I have to do is push a button, so I don't have that number memorized, but if you call the main line, you can get Brian Williams as the vocational director, he's the one who will start looking at some of those.
That's awesome, we should definitely take advantage of, I mean, the town and all the
Yeah.
departments should definitely be taking advantage of, the school services, absolutely. Thank you.
Oh,
Excellent.
Unfortunately, I'd love to get new cabinets and more stuff.
All right.
They make them there.
Yeah.
Yes. Do they do like drapes and stuff too?
I do it on the side.
I'd love to get some drapes.
Yeah, get some
Thank you.
swatches going.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah, have a good night.
All right, and we will, any word for your contacts over there, Maureen?
Nothing, nothing from the superintendent and.
Oh, dear.
Business grant manager is in hospital with that. Here's his hat.
It's tough.
So that may have been who was supposed to be here, and so I'm assuming, I didn't get into a lot of conversation about anything else other than that.
I know we do have their packet, but I would definitely like to give them the opportunity to present, so if we could probably put them on either next week, we could meet, we have to get on schedule, or even the week after, during our planned meeting, we can fit them in, so. But without further ado, we will take our fine folks from Montachusett Regional Vocational Technical School for their presentation.
See everybody.
You as well.
Do you have the budget book already? You see that?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Printing department was busy with that.
See, we have a graphic.
Graphics, right.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Great, thank you. All right, so, again, very happy to be here. Tom Brown, Superintendent of Monty, Tammy Crockett, best business manager in the world. End of story.
He says that to all the business managers that work for him.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Oh.
Whitney Marsh, who is the Barre rep for my tech school committee.
Right.
Always excited to have her here.
Best Barry rep.
That's right.
Only very.
She heckles us, so it's good. We'll kind of just do our usual kind of presentation. I'm sure you're getting used to by now. We'll quickly gonna go through some of the projects that we've been finishing up and really focus on some of the ways that Monty Tech continues to try to make sure that we're supplementing our budget through grants and so forth, so we don't have to go to the towns in terms of assessments and everything else. With no further ado,
This one first.
yes, sorry.
Yep, that's
Got it.
it.
One thing we always like to emphasize is when you do look at Monty Tech in terms of in comparison to the other regional vocational schools, this is per pupil expenditures. You can see that we're pretty far down the list because we try to make sure that we use our dollars the best way possible that we can. And as I said, one of the things with the way we do that is really relying on grants. So if you flip over to the next page there, one of the things we did want to make sure for this budget season in particular is to emphasize what we do have for federal grants. Obviously, earlier in the spring, when we first started the presentations, there's still lots of concern, but it was first kind of hitting us and everything else. So you can see we have just over $1 million that come from federal grants. The largest one there, the IDA grant, is special education that does fund many of our paraprofessionals that support our students in need. We do have, in terms of the Title I grant as well, we do have a full teacher and a couple partial teachers on that grant. So when they do talk about any particular changes, we do have some concerns because we do have staffing. One of the things to emphasize is as we work with grants now, we try to avoid putting salaries on grants, but this is grant funds that go back 50 years. So it's always there. You always expect it to be there. It's not the kind of thing where you're saying, okay, we don't want to put someone on a one-year position. So we've had those in position for a long time, and Tammy and I are going to be talking. We've been talking to our faculty for a while now, but our emphasis will be, if there are federal cuts, it will be supplies and materials that go for people. We need those teachers in front of those classrooms, we need those paraprofessionals. So, but that's where we stand in terms of federal grants. Fortunately, what we do is we do supplement our budget with competitive grants. And as you can see, as of at this point for this year, we've had $2.7 million that we brought in through competitive grants for FY25. A lot of that due to our fantastic grant writer that we have in place, but also just making sure that we target grants that we think are going to have some direct impacts. So if you kind of flip over, you can see some of the grants that we have there. The Partnership and Planning Grant, the large one at 8.3 in Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. Both of those are supporting our MVP Academy, which I'll be talking a little bit about. But the Clean Energy Center is also supporting what's called the Career Technical Initiative, which is no-cost workforce training for adults, done through Mass Hire. We vary the programs that we have. We bounce around between HVAC, house carpentry, electrical, plumbing. Get about 20 students or so, again, adult students. This is the evening program, but obviously using our facilities that are already in place. So those grant funds are fantastic because they can support the adults and the students in terms of equipment purchases and everything else. So very pleased with the grants that we have in place. We do still have 2 outstanding grants, and actually the CTI round 10 ended up being a little bit over 800,000 when we finally put it in, so it's, I'll say 778. But in general, if we are fortunate enough to get those 2 grants, we'll end up with over $4 million in grants in FY25. So again, the goal is that we have these things in place so we don't have to necessarily access the regular Chapter 70 funds. MVP Academy, again, this is unfortunately, these are kind of old because if you didn't see the cover of Fitchburg Sentinel today, we just opened last week MVP Academy. I'll be signing copies of the Sentinel out front. They'll be worth nothing. But as you can see for those 2 top pictures, and I came here last year and talked a little about this. We were just starting really the heavy renovations back then. But MVP Academy is up and going. Again, this is a satellite campus about a mile down the road from Monty Tech. We started off partnering with Fitchburg, Gardner, and Narragansett Regional for proximity, but also they had the largest wait lists at the time, and we were starting this process. What our goal was, because we don't have space in the building, and if I came here and asked for a new building, my guess had said that it was going to be $500 million. My guess you guys would probably not be lining up for that. So we leased this facility down the road. Our students went in, did the renovations, basically top to bottom. Everything except for the foundation and the exterior walls, our students were part of the process there, or our business partners. What was really neat about this is the kids who were in MVP Academy started the year. Actually, our carpentry kids are working in an outdoor pavilion, which thankfully was a very warm fall, if you remember, so it worked out very nicely. But they were able to come down to the building and actually help build what was going to be their building, which was a great aspect of that. So again, you can see on the next page the number of kids. So HC is house carpentry. EL is electrical. Those were the number of students that were coming from each of the towns. Juniors and seniors, again, they do all their academics at their home district. It's the juniors that are in academics at the home district, the seniors are at MVP Academy doing their vocational training. That flips every other week. And again, the key part of this is that because those students are doing their academics back at their sending district, the Chapter 70 money stays in that home district. That doesn't come to Monty Tech. What comes to Monty Tech is the Chapter 74 money, which Tammy goes over, but that's the allotment that the kids get for being vocational students. So we get that reimbursement back. Again, the original $1.9 million grant that we got, lab modernization grant, allowed us to do these renovations, allowed us to purchase all that equipment. But again, we have that program up and coming. or up in Mill Lake.
Tom?
Yes.
You got the students involved in the design of it? or-
So the design, that was something that we had to have in place, obviously when we were going into planning and everything else, so that was before we really had those. But I would say that our CAD program worked directly with, so we started out, the first group, so Lamro Pagano is an architecture firm that does a lot of civic and school architecture. And our CAD kids did go down and watch that process and everything else, so, yeah.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, no, we're really happy with it.
Any plans for, I know last year you had said like this is the first one, but any plan on going into any other communities?
100%, like.
We got an old factory down the road.
So what I keep saying is, we just opened last week. We're still going through the process. In fact, Tammy and I are meeting with the business managers and superintendents of other districts, because we haven't even really, like, little things we didn't think about when it comes to like that Chapter 74 money is, what happens if it's a school choice student?
Mhm.
The student doesn't live in that town, they live in another town. So a kid who might be living in Winchendon but goes to Gardner is now in our program. How is that reimbursement gonna go if that's a kind of, well, back with a phrase, a pass-through kind of thing? So there's still some pieces that we have to resolve. But absolutely, we were really proud, the state, several folks from the state level, high state level executive office of education came to our grand opening last week. And they would love to see us duplicate this. They'd love to see other districts
Yeah.
duplicate it as well. So yes, absolutely. School committee meetings, now they all come to me, we crush them away, because they all want their towns to be next, but we hope to have that. Another grant that we had started out just around this time when we were here last year was the Young Adults with Disabilities Grant. Obviously a much smaller grant, but we have great pride in this grant. The idea that folks in their late teens, 20s, 30s, who may have a disability, autism, along those lines, they deserve to have access to workforce training as well. That's what this grant provided them. The best part of it is it's really focused on job placement, so we have a lot of partners, big and small. We have, Hannaford's in Lunenburg, and we have Red Apple Barn that's willing to take kids in as employees and everything else. We had this grant last year, we were able to receive it again this year, so we received it twice. And as I say, we're really surprised, we're the only vocational district in the so that actually applied for the grant, so.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a
Very
great
good
program.
on you.
Pardon me?
How
That's what I'm saying, we're working on it, we're working
Oh,
on
did
it.
I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you missed a question. Oh,
That's
Corey has a
right.
question.
Oh, sorry, Corey.
That's okay. We're working on it, yeah. We're still getting this one up and going, so.
Oh, these are, John, I misunderstood. So this is these are towns that have this workforce.
They're part of
training.
they're part of this particular satellite facility.
Oh, I thought these were students. I thought these were number of students.
It
It
is.
is, those are the numbers of students, so
Yeah.
electrical
Just
shop
for that
and
extra
in-house
building.
carpentry.
And so the Barre students can't be involved in this.
Not
Not
yet,
yet.
Not yet.
not yet, I'm
Okay.
gonna say yet.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the first, this is like the pilot program.
Correct.
Yes.
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 And
So
like-
you have limited space, there was limited
Oh,
things to
yeah,
do.
yeah, we can't,
So there's-
I mean, one of the twerks, I guess, of even our own building, even if we wanted to renovate at our own building, it would immediately trigger installing sprinklers throughout the entire building, which would be millions and millions of dollars. So even renovations at our regular building is a challenge, so. Again, that's a really good grant. A couple other quick things, we continue to, if we have to, we leverage resources. Last year at this time, we were in front of you talking about our ancient spray booth and auto collision, and we thought we had the money, and we put it out for a bid, and we did not have the money. And so Tammy said, well, let's see what we can come up with. We did have another anonymous donation. We were able to get a good $340,000 Donnelly grant, which again is a workforce grant, using some Perkins funds and everything else. So we are now officially getting this booth. In fact, in about 2 or 3 weeks, they'll shut down the shop a little bit early to start the demolition on the existing booths and bring in this new booth. So we're very excited. Because as I said, I think we built the building around the spray booth. That's how old it is. So. And this other example, we do have opportunities where we get donations, and we did get a generous donation a while back. And what we focused on, if you're in industry, heavy equipment operators are desperately needed. To do training for heavy equipment is very much a challenge, except now they do it virtually. And so what we're gonna use this funds for are gonna be virtual heavy equipment, and I had the pleasure of being able to sit in one, and it is super cool. You are in the truck, and I drove around the work site, and I didn't run over anybody, so that was exciting.
Yeah,
But
no
it's-
OSHA violations.
Correct,
all around, so-
correct.
Pretty good.
But it is very realistic, but again, if you talk to construction, large builders, they need these heavy equipment operators, so that's what we're gonna use the funds for primarily. Next couple quick charts, the next one, our co-op numbers, continue to go up, and I'll tell you right now that we already know that 235 kids out on co-op last year was 1 of every 3 juniors and seniors was out on co-op by the end of the year. We're already over 235 kids this year, we're about 250 kids, and juniors are still getting on board, so our co-op partners all over the place. I know we've had co-op partners working in Barre, but again, that's another thing where if you're looking for people to do additional work, it's a great opportunity.
Now, would you attribute that to like the kind of the skilled laborers market being diluted?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think it's that transition piece where they have the soon-to-be retirees. What's really nice is sometimes they'll bring our folks on as a paid student, but kind of to learn under a mentor-mentee kind of situation as well. And then those kids, if they're enjoying the place, they'll continue working there, so it's a good thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so co-op partners, fantastic, we thank them. We do share each year our post-graduation results. Won't necessarily go through them, but the orange ones are where you would typically expect to see kids going directly into the workforce. The blue ones are where you'd expect them to go into college, because again, for instance, our engineering program, the vast majority of kids are gonna go on to college. So when people talk about, well, there's kids at vocational schools going to college, there's a reason, because they're in trades that, in industries that need to go that way. So,
Right.
but very proud of those. Very quick, oh, sorry.
Do you guys need upstairs, or?
Planning board?
Yeah, third floor.
It's okay.
Also, we just wanted to give some information, as I talked about, the Career Technical Initiative. This shows you the kind of graduates that we've had in previous rounds and what type of programs we're currently having. Again, we're waiting for the results for CTI 10. You can see in the bottom left, those are just all the various programs, all the towns, and how many folks from those towns come to our continuing education program. And that includes everything, though, some of the more interest programs and everything else. But very proud of our continuing ed. And last but not least, as I mentioned, we love to work at our towns. And again, our students MVP was where our students were pretty busy the last year plus. But again, we still have one roof we're finishing for one of the entrances. Besides that, we're done. So we will be looking for outside projects and everything else. I know we already have one lined up at Hubbardston for next year and everything else. So feel free to get on the list.
You'll probably be putting some phone lines in before you know it.
Well, there you go. All right.
Okay, Tom gets the fun part, and I get the monotonous number part.
It is, no,
so-
it's fun.
So now we're gonna move on to the second piece. The top slide is the foundation budget rates. I'm starting with this because the whole basis of our budget, because we're so close to our foundation budget spending, which is synonymous with our required net school spending. So I'd just like to kind of give you a little snapshot of what I'm talking about. So for each grade level and each kind of instructional cost category, there's a rate assigned to that. So you can see going down the left-hand side, preschool, kindergarten, et cetera, and I've highlighted vocational. So vocational education is the most expensive regular type of education. This is excluding special education. So we get the higher rates. So you can see a total kind of foundation rate for vocational. If you look to the right, this is your base rate, is $17,354 per pupil. And if you look right below it, that's your regular high school rate, 11,714.46 per pupil. That's, when Tom talked about the MVP program, and he said the Chapter 70 stays with the district, but the additional monies come to the school. So the delta in between the 17 and the 11, that's what we'll be billing the communities for those students, because they'll be classified as vocational. The things below that are what you get that's above the base. So these are individualized group subpopulations of students that are more expensive to educate. You can see special ed, ELs, low-income groups. So for each of those, the rate you see over in the right is what you get above the base for those pupils. And I'm highlighting the low-income group 6, because that is the low-income group Monty Tech is in, that you'll see on the next slide. So we get an additional $56.62 per pupil for our low-income students. And again, I'll just say, this is all based on the governor's numbers. You know, we're going through the state budget process right now, and the Senate just came out with some numbers. But again, these are all based on the governor's numbers. We don't do a final budget till after the state finalizes their budget. So the next slide is Monty Tech's foundation budget, kind of put to a graph for those numbers I just showed you on the previous slide. So we're talking about the age groups across the top. Well, all of Monty Tech's students are considered vocational. And you can see we have 1,488. That is not just the pupils that are enrolled at Monty Tech. This is what's called our foundation enrollment. So it includes 3 categories. It includes the kids who live in our 18 cities and towns that are enrolled at Monty Tech and come. It also includes the kids that live in our 18 communities that attend another vocational school under the school choice program. So if we had a Barre kid going to Pathfinder per se, it's those get added in there. As well as we have an adult practical nursing program that is Chapter 74 certified as well. So if we have any members of our 18 communities that attend that program, they get counted into that. So they take that 1488 and they multiply it by those rates we saw on the previous slide to come up with this base number. So that's where the column 7 comes into play. Columns 8 through 13 are what we talked about for the special population groups in the above base. One thing I'd like to point out is in column 8, you'll see that it says 74 special ed students. We have far more than 74 special ed students, as well as every other district in the state will have more students in that category than reported. If you look down at the little legend in the lower left, the third sentence down, it says, special education in-district enrollment is an assumed percentage. So for a K-12 comprehensive school, they assume it to be 3.9%. Right?
That's ridiculous.
Right. And for a vocational district, they assume it to be 4.97%. So that's where that comes into play. They give us the additional rates above that to come up with those. We don't have any special ed out students because you have to be able to come to Monty Tech to be a student at Monty Tech. You can't be in a permanent residential placement to be considered a Monty Tech student.
How many kids are school choice that are Barre kids that go to a non-Monty Tech vocational school?
Yes.
Is that number in here?
You currently have none.
None.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Zero, wow.
Currently have none.
Therefore, no transportation.
You have, let me grab my,
I only ask that because that tends to be a costly number.
no,
Yeah, because your
Well,
transport.
transportation goes.
Transport is right.
Yeah.
There was some folks going to the ag school right down near the Cape
oh,
Coral.
you used to pay for one student,
We
yes.
Norfolk County.
Norfolk
Yeah.
County
We
Aggie,
paid
yeah.
for 3 to go.
3, there was a few.
Was that a 2.5 hour ride?
Oh,
Yeah, that, and transportation is the killer for that as well. So you have 46 students
Maybe you
enrolled
do
and one,
career for me.
yeah. So no school choice kids this year.
But also, the example that Tammy, Pathfinder in the past has picked up a lot of students.
Yes.
And I don't know why it is, they all seem to be Southbury students.
Maybe proximity.
Thank you for that information, I
Of
appreciate it.
course, yeah, absolutely. Column 12, the ELs, 14, that is our actual count. And then low income, 484. So we have 34% of our population is considered low income. So that's where those come. So working off of column 14, they take our original 1488, add up all the columns, and they come up with those totals. The lower, in row 12, lower right, is what I'm gonna point out to you, 30,990,414. That is our foundation budget. And for this year, in our case, that is synonymous with our net school spending requirement, our minimum requirement. And if you break that out per pupil, because I will mention this number again, the number below it, 20,827. That is our foundation budget spending per pupil. So keeping in mind, that does not count transportation, capital, debt service, school lunch, any of those. This is purely your instructional costs in here. The next slide is entitled Chapter 70 Summary. This is giving you a breakdown, I'm kind of breaking down how our assessment is calculated. So in the left-hand side, number 1 is just what we're currently getting. So rows 2 through 5 is what we're calculated to get in FY26. So we just saw how the foundation budget numbers calculated. Row 3, required district contribution. That I'm gonna break down for you a couple slides from now, but essentially that's what the state calculates. All 18 of our communities are required to pay for your minimum contribution. That's all 18 added up. That's the 12 mil. So our foundation aid, or AKA Chapter 70 for 26, is 18,762,805, which is an increase over this year of 290,597. Now, there's a lot of school districts that are considered hold harmless, which means they're not getting any additional Chapter 70, only the minimum per aid. Now, I know the minimum per aid in the Senate budget is more than the 75, so I don't know what that'll ultimately end up being, but that's the only funds they'll get. We're getting more than the minimum. I won't say a lot more, but we are getting 290. If we were only getting the minimum in the governor's budget, it would be that 111,600 number. I'm gonna shoot over to the right. So you can see our foundation enrollment went up by 12 students. Foundation budget, we saw how that was calculated. And again, synonymous with our required net school spending, district contributions, Chapter 70, and required net school spending. So we'll see how those numbers come into play in our budget. The next one is a slide, is called budget summary. So you're gonna see a lot of these same numbers repeat. So when you look at our proposed FY26 column, you'll see the 30,994,414. That's our net school spending. We just talked about that in the foundation budget. Transportation, 2.5 mil. That is our 30 buses and 3 vans that pick our kids up every day, bring them to school and bring them home. That's our contractual transportation costs. Our above net school spending, 606,410. That's what we need in our budget above that required 30 million to fund our budget, quote unquote, adequately. This is 1.96% above our required net school spending. So that's why I say we run very tight to our required spending. The next number is our capital budget, 450,000. in our vehicle budget, which is also considered capital, 50,000. So the two of those together are 500. So that brings our total budget proposed for FY '26, 34,641,344. That's a 3.51% increase, and a lot of that is driven by our net school spending increase, which you see above, which is approximately a 2.9% increase, so that's a large driver. The next row talks about our Chapter 70 we saw. So our assessments are broken up into 4 categories. Required minimum, the town's apportionment of net transportation and other, which is above, our capital assessment, and if we had debt service, that would be the 4th component of an assessment, but we do not have any debt service at the time. So row 1, or label 1 here, required minimum contribution. That's the first piece. That's all 18 towns, that's determined by the state. I'll show you Barre's in a moment. The second piece is that transportation and above. So you can see that section is 3,159,030. So that is literally from above, taking the transportation plus the above net school spending to get that. We're proposing using $2 million, which is, was on our cherry sheet from the governor's proposal of $2 million. We're also, Monty Tech has what's called a regional transportation reimbursement fund, so that's a revolving fund. So if we get any money in transportation above what we said we're gonna use as the budget, the school committee votes at the year end, when we see what that is, to put money into this transportation account. The usage of that is, it must be used in the following fiscal year to reduce the assessments to your communities for your transportation costs. So we're seeing that we're gonna probably get more than the 1.925 million you see for FY '25. So we're projecting we're gonna get at least 200,000 more. So we're gonna vote, the school committee's gonna vote to use that to offset the FY '26 transportation. So that's the 200. 250 is a portion of our excess and deficiency account, which is the equivalent of your free cash in the town. It's kind of our savings account, and I have a little bit of that on the next slide. So that second component of our transportation, of our assessment, is $700,930. That's for all communities. The third piece, as I said, is our capital budget, $500,000. We're proposing using $250,000 of our E&D to reduce that, leaving a net assessment to all our towns there of $250,000. So that gives our total assessments for FY '26, $13,178,539. That's a 6.11% increase in our assessments. And again, I'm gonna point out that that's largely driven by, if you go back to 1 and you see the required minimum increase that is set by the state, not Monty Tech, that's almost 5% of it right there. So we'll talk to that at that. The next slide.
Could you just tell me, what did you certify for your E&D?
Yes, it's like you read my next slide, but you didn't see. So on my next slide, it says certified E&D TBD, because I did not know until last week or a few days ago. Our certified E&D is $880,000. So the school committee is proposing using $500,000 of that. That's huge. That leaves very small.
That's really huge.
Yes.
Using that in the operational budget?
Yes. Yeah. To reduce your
The
assessments.
assessments. Wow, that's,
We had some
congratulations to the school
negatives in
committee.
accounts that I wasn't anticipating coming in, so we should have come in at 1.2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You made me nervous that you.
I did, I know, I said I'm gonna tell Dr. Marshall some more info. all on that. We also have a stabilization account that we use for capital. So, we're putting small amounts in this annually. Matter of fact, 30,000 for FY '26, because we as a district try to keep our capital piece to our communities at that $450,000, $500,000 range that you saw on the budget. But we have capital expenditures that are much higher than that. So, especially next coming up on our list is our electrical main gear for the school. If you want to talk about something being built, the school being built around, it's our electrical main gear, which we're having an engineering study done on right now, which is, we're planning to come in probably closer to $1 million. So the goal is to tap into the stabilization fund for those projects, to keep our assessments around that $500,000 mark and offset with the stabilization fund. We also have OPEB accounts, so that's the other post-employment benefits. So that's the fund. Other post-employment benefits is when you provide your employees and retirees medical, health, dental, life benefits. Those get factored in throughout the life of the employees, and what's your liability gonna look like?
What's your real liability?
Yeah, 40 million.
Nice, yeah.
And, yeah, so ours, we have to have an actuary do it every 2 years. You probably do too for the town.
We're familiar, yeah.
Yep, so we fund it, we're putting in 20,000 in FY '26, we put small amounts in each year to keep that going. We're not funding it all in my lifetime unless Monty Tech hits the lottery, but they don't let me buy a ticket for Monty Tech, so that's gonna be a lot. The next slide is the summary by function code. So this is, a little breakdown from FY '23 forward of where our spending is per category. So this will kind of give you a snapshot of the trends and what we're seeing increases in or decreases. My next slide is gonna talk to you specifically about where you see larger increases here. So of course, you're seeing them in salaries, equipment and supplies, health benefits. That you're seeing some decreases in technology, because we're developing new technology plans to try to level that spending out a little bit. But if you look on my next slide, you'll see the large increases that make up that 1 million. Salaries and payroll tax. We are going into the last year of our collective bargaining agreement with our staff. So it's 3% COLA. So as well in that, we have step and column movement. So that's about 581,000 of that increase.
Interesting that your, in your summary sheet, your total, and your percentage increase is almost identical to Quabbin's. Theirs is 3.6
Really?
forever,
Wow.
almost identical.
That's,
Yeah, it's
I
actually-
copied off their homework.
No, it must have been, no, it's just interesting.
Sounds like collusion to me.
Yeah, well, you know, a school district. The next one is our fringe, so that's our medical, 5%. So,
That's all?
I know, I knew Dr. Marshall was gonna say that. So, our plan year runs December 1st through November 30th. So I already know half of our budget for next year. So what I did on top of that was give it a 5%. This year, we had an 8% increase. The year prior, we had a 3%. So I kinda,
You're self-insured?
we are self-insured. Yes, we are. Yep. Which can be scary and can be good, all at once.
Depends on what
You always have a catastrophic.
your
We do
attachment point is for
60
large claims.
Our large claims catastrophic loss is 65,000 per
Very good.
person. Utilities and insurance, that is, so when I say insurance there, I mean liability, comprehensive, umbrella, more your building insurance. So 96,000. We have an amazingly, knock on wood, low utility rate right now, because when I signed the contract, it's through 2027, and we have insanely low rates. They're not coming to me at this time, but yes. And then academic vocational programs and equipment, we're seeing an increase. Tom and I sat down and really slashed about 1.3 million out of those line items that our faculty was requesting, and we still came in with an increase. We'll be okay, but, wood, lumber, wire,
Everything.
pipe,
Oh.
eggs,
Yeah.
not no more, but,
Oh, no, they're still.
or they're still there, food.
They're not going anywhere.
So that's how we educate our kids. Less textbooks, more supplies like this that go way up. So we do see an increase there. Our transportation contract, we're going into our 4th year. So we do a 3-year bid, 2 optional years. So this is option year 1. And yes, I would love to say we only have it was only a $23,000 increase. It is, but it's because we were able to cut out a bus as well. So that's why we were able to keep that increase low. The next slide is now we're gonna start getting into the meat of each community's payments, specifically Barre. So this is the required contributions by our town. So this is a snapshot of all our towns. We're gonna focus on Barre. So your foundation enrollment changed from 45 students to 47. So that's an increase of 2 students. Your required minimum contribution is changing from $349,102 to $386,445, or an increase of $37,343. And we are going to see that on the next slide, how the state calculated that. So this is purely state wealth model calculations. So the state uses 3 methodologies to get, three items to get to your wealth, or your required contribution. They use your property value, the income of the town, and then a municipal revenue growth factor. So you can see on this slide that says Barre, 1 through 3 is about your property value. So they used the 2024 property valuation, so you can see the number. They multiply that by uniform property percentage. That percentage is just what it says, uniform. So A to Z community, that is the same percentage used to get the effort from wealth. So they multiply it by that 0.3243, and they get Barre's effort from wealth, 2,539,492. The next section is the income of the citizens. So they're using the 2022 income. You can see the number. They're using that uniform income percentage, again, equal across every community, 1.5699, to come up with Barre's effort from income, 2,896,412. So they take row 3 plus row 6 to come up with what they call your combined effort yield. That is 5,435,904. Then what they do for row 8 is they say, what is Barre's portion of all the school districts' foundation budgets they belong to? So it's Quabbin and Monty Tech. So Barre's piece of those 2 districts, your foundation budget equated to you is $11,645,274. They multiply that up by 82.5%. Why they do that is because even the wealthiest of wealthy communities, who can far exceed even paying for everything, at least get 17.5% state aid, Chapter 70 money. So they're taking a look at which number's higher, or lower, I should say. So in this case, so for row 10, they said what the state's calculated Barre can pay is lower. That's the number they're gonna use, the 5,435,904. I'm going over to your right-hand side now, 13 through 16. So they said, okay, what's Barre's required contribution for FY25? It's 4,338,017. This is where they multiply that by the municipal revenue growth factor. That number is different for every community. And it's based on your factors of your levy limits, your new growth, there's a bunch of stuff in there. That, your mileage will vary by that.
Magic number.
Yes, calculated by Department of Revenue. So for Barre, 3.98. So they multiply that, excuse me, and they get you preliminary minimum contribution to be $4,510,670. So now they go, well, is that more or less than what we just calculated we think they could afford to pay? Well, in this instance, it's less. How much less? Row 21, $925,234, or 7.95%. So in row 23, they say if your shortfall is between 2.5 and 7, it's 1. If it's above 7.5, which in this case it is, they're gonna multiply, they're gonna add 2% increment. So that 86,760 is the state multiplying what you're paying in FY '25 times the 2%. That's where they get the 86,760. They add that number to your required, what they've calculated for your required in row 15. So now they say, Barre, your required contribution to Quabbin and Monty Tech is $4,597,430. Next slide shows you how they break that out. I'm focusing on rows 5 through 9. So you can see they start with your number from the previous page, $4,597,430. That's off to the right in row 5. Row 6 is the foundation enrollment for Barre in Quabbin and Monty Tech. So at Monty Tech, you have 47 students, and your foundation budget of Monty Tech is $978,864. Now, remembering that very first slide I showed you about the foundation budget, and I said it's $20,724 off the top of my head per pupil, that's how they get this 900 number. They take the 20K by the 47 and they get. The other one you can see, your 721 and your portion of Quabbin's foundation budget. So I say what percentage is each school district of the whole? So Monty Tech represents 8.41% of the whole. So they are gonna take 8.41% of your required minimum contribution of the $4,597,430 and give 8.41% of that to Monty Tech and 91.59% of that to Quabbin. So you can see in Monty Tech's case, your required minimum contribution is $386,445, or an increase of $37,343. The next slide kind of shows you how we get your assessment and how it changed over the course of the 2 years. So foundation budget to foundation budget, required minimum contribution, I just showed you how they calculated that. So for the transportation and operating, that $22,140, that's Barre's portion of our transportation and operating component of our assessment. So that's $22,140, for an increase of $8,025. The capital piece is Barre's capital apportionment of that net $250 for our capital budget, or $69,12. Now, I'd like to point out that your capital, I'll give you your percentages because I think it's an important number. If I could put my fingers on it, let's see. Sure. Oh, right here. So Barre represents 3.16% of our operating and 2.76% of our capital. So how capital is calculated is, per the district agreement, we take your school attending children number. So that's the kids, and we use grades 1 through 12, because when the district agreement was established, there was no kindergarten, so it's grades 1 through 12. So I reach out to your superintendent of schools, and they tell me every kid that's eligible to be enrolled in school, grades 1 through 12, homeschooled, private school, choiced out, everybody, and we take that number. and that's called your school attending children number. And then we do that for all 18 towns, and we take Barry's number over the total, and that's how we get that 2.76 number. I'd like to point that number out because that's how we establish your freshman quota. So when the school committee approved a freshman class in April of 360, Barry gets 2.76% of that freshman class. That's how your quota is established each year. So I'd like to point that out because sometimes people ask the question, how's our quota getting
Now,
established?
did something change at the state level with vocational enrollment?
So currently at the Board of Ed is taking a look at vocational admissions. And DESE, Department of Elementary Education, has proposed going to what they're calling a weighted lottery, which would basically take away the application process. The application would literally write down your name, your address, and what middle school you're coming from, and that's about it. If the weighted lottery gets included, every student would get their name in at least once. If they had fewer than 27 absences, they would get their name submitted again. Keeping in mind that 27 absences is considered chronically absent, so it's a pretty high number to be allowing kids to miss. And the other thing is that if you are a student who doesn't have what's called a Chapter 37H1/2 suspension, which is the big three, weapons, drugs, assaulting staff. Somebody did the numbers and figured out that currently that's only 386 eighth graders in the entire state. So everybody else will qualify for that, so they'll all get their name put into the lottery a third time potentially. And then we do a lottery by town. So we would take everybody from Barre through Old Man. If Barry's getting 7 kids, the first 7 names that are pulled out, you get into Monty-Tech, and everybody else doesn't.
Right now it's assessment based off of.
Currently, it's an application process that considers grades and interview, which is one of the big problems that we have with the lottery is there's nothing in place to determine student interest. The reality is this, we have many students who will openly say the reason they applied to go to Monty-Tech is they don't want to go to their sending district. It isn't about that they're looking for a trade or anything like that. And that's disappointing. There's a very big difference between interest. So what the state has put in place is they've said, well, what if the kid goes to an open house? Well, it's nice, but that just simply knows awareness. The kid now knows about Monty-Tech. We don't know if that kid really wants to pursue a trade and everything else. That's what we used to know from the interview, but they've thrown out the interview.
What if the parent wants them to pursue a trade?
It's a good thing, but it's not the best because trust me, we've had lots of kids who you ask the kid, why are you here? Because my parents told me I had to be. Yeah. So that's a bit of a challenge. So yes, that's all. Currently, DESE had public comment that closed last month on the 18th. They're now looking through that public comment. We've been told that they heard from over 2,000 people submitted public comment. Allegedly, we're going to hear about some of those results at the next Board of Ed meeting in May, this month now. So we'll see what happens. But there is an effort within the House. Representative Moran has proposed legislation that would create a vocational admissions task force. It would freeze DESEs, because the reality is this, and I'll say this, and the camera's there so they can hear me saying it. The biggest problem with the lottery is there literally was zero collaboration. DESE did not meet with anybody. They didn't meet with anybody on the vocational side. They didn't meet with business and industry. We've had great spokesmen. The owner of Rodenheiser stood up and said, if one of my servicemen has 3 unexcused absences, we fire him. Said our employees, our customers expect those guys to show up. And if you're not gonna show up, we don't want you here. So industry has been really supporting this idea of, okay, attendance is really not, that's too high of a number to allow kids to get their names into it and everything else. But anyhow, if that legislation were passed, a task force would be created, people that would be both from the State House, from industry, from the coalition, Vocational Coalition, which is the group that's really pushing for the lottery, but at least would have people sitting at a table talking about it, so, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take too much away from that,
No,
but.
and thankfully, they put back into this change that they will honor district agreements for the
Correct,
town.
yes, because if it was just a open lottery where they didn't do it by town, think about, Barre doesn't have a small number. Think about poor Royalston. Royalston gets 2 kids a year. Currently, we have around 750 to 800 applicants for the 350 to 360 spots. So we have way more people interested. If it goes to a lottery, that 700 to 800 will go to well over 1,000 kids now will be applying, no doubt in our mind. And think about the 3 kids from Royalston who are applying to try to be in one of those spots getting in. They're probably not gonna get in. Even if they get in by the district agreement, they still have to pay for those kids, for those spots.
If they have even if they have no kids, they still have to pay their capital piece.
Correct.
But think about too, if Barre has, and I'm just shooting, 10 kids for your quota, imagine if we ended up selecting 30 Barre kids. Think of what that does to your school district. We could have all 300 kids from Fitchburg alone, because they have like 500 applicants. So really, one of the things we pushed hard for was honoring regional agreements in terms of quotas.
And what actually was very fortunate for us is that allocation is in the district agreement. The state is now trying to say, well, if you have that as a policy, that's great, but we don't know if we have to honor it if it's only a policy. Thankfully, ours is in the district agreement.
Oh,
so,
good.
yeah.
I would imagine the lottery would have potentially higher turnover too, because you don't have the interview and kid may show up for 6 months and say, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that AB week, kids who, if you have bad attendance, but kids struggle often with, they do nothing in academics for a week, and then they're going back to academics, and they're having trouble remembering, what did I do last week, and handling that balance. That's one of, when we do exit interviews, kids leave, that's one of the main reasons that kids say they left, is they just didn't like the AB week. And they're not gonna know about that until they sit down and do it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a lot more than I think a lot of kids realize
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
My daughter goes there and she was pretty overwhelmed freshman year, just in understanding like what is required of her, even though it seemed like, I mean, it is better, but for her, but it was also like, yeah, a lot to butt chew off,
Yes.
In that first year, she was like, when it was over, she was like, okay, I get it now.
And you double up on the math and double up on the English,
Correct,
right?
our English and math, science have longer periods.
Yeah.
I'm an old history teacher, we only get 1 period.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I went to vocation, I went to Bay Path, so
Yeah.
I love the, I love the,
Baby do.
especially, if I would have doubled up on shop.
Yes, they would love that. So yeah, just finishing this page, 85% of your assessment increase is driven by the required minimum contribution change from the state.
And we should say, we know, because Tammy and I did go to the session that the Ways and Means held at UMass, and we saw all the Quabbin t-shirts, of folks, saying that this is a challenging formula. It's not just Quabbin. Again, we go to all their towns and everything else.
The best speaker at the event is sitting behind me right
Yes,
now.
good point.
And
Yeah.
that was the best group that spoke, and great job up there, and all of you guys were amazing. So kudos, good advocates, you have a great rep.
But this year in particular, the sheer number of towns that we go to, of our 18 that are doing 2.5 overrides is just crazy.
How many have you done this year? Town, you got 18?
We have 18.
How many have you gone to?
So the 2 cities, we do present with Gardner. Fitchburg just kind of does their thing.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily going to go down 2.5. But just this weekend, let's see, we had 4 meetings. So Harvard is looking at 2.5. Lunenburg was looking at 2.5. And is Ashby looking at 2.5 as well?
No, they just decided to let them close Ashby
Yes.
Elementary.
Yeah, North Middlesex, they're laying off.
Even with closing Ashby Elementary School, they're in big trouble.
Yes, that's what they're doing right now. Yeah.
Oh, they're closing the elementary.
Closing the
Yes.
elementary school. And the other elementary school is, it's not even Townsend, I think it's in Pepperell.
Pepperell and Townsend are
Long
getting
Yeah.
split, yeah.
So they're like choicing it out, not regionalizing?
No, they're
No.
regionalized.
They're
Okay.
regionalized,
They're
but they're closing the schools because they have such a deficit in their budget, they
We've
can't
closed at
afford it.
least 3 schools in the last 10 years.
It's be like Quabbin maybe shutting down Ruggles Lane and your kids are going to Hubbardston
Yeah.
for their, grades. So that's what, and that's what a lot of we were in Sterling last night and a lot of struggles with the Wachusett district. It's very sad, disheartening
Yep.
when you're out there
I'll bet.
to hear the struggles the towns are going through with funding schools and town. It's preaching, I know I'm preaching.
So just to confirm, so the total assessment to the town
For
for,
26 is $415,496. And that's an increase of $43,554 from the current FY '25.
But
Okay.
up 2
Karen,
students.
do you think,
Up
to two
depending
students.
on what happens in the House budget is out
Yeah.
today. Well, unfortunately, I wouldn't say we did terrific in transportation, except we did get some money out of the supplemental, which is gonna help stabilization and roll over. We did get out of the supplemental extra money, we probably not you so much in circuit breaker, but
Right.
certainly for the rest of
Which
us.
is great.
Which is great. So we did restore regional rural aid from the 7 million that we thought we were getting stuck with, now it's back up to 16 million. Hugely important
That's
for Quabbin.
Good.
One thing though, we do know that there's 319 school districts in the Commonwealth. 234 are getting 0 in chapter 70.
Yep.
You're one of them,
0.
we're one of them, and that is a problem in the formula. And we'll be starting the fight at the Senate level with the change in chapter 70. They have to make those adjustments. And the governor is, making like, I have never heard of this before, but we do have, I think, solid support in the Senate. I just don't know if we have enough. But that's 200, plus
Right.
districts, and we're desperate.
Yes.
Desperate.
It's a lot of finger pointing. Governor saying, state, legislator, why aren't you doing it? Legislator saying, the governor, why aren't
Yeah, exactly. Well, you were there, right?
you? Yeah,
We won't do it unless the governor says to do it. Well, we're not gonna do it unless.
yeah. You lead the way.
Right. Yeah. It's,
so what's the bottom line to run Monty Tech operationally, like overall, like what's your?
Jeez. Could be a food factory and grant money and everything.
well,
else.
and that's an important thing that we point, so our FY '26, just general fund budget alone, what did I say? 'Cause I'm already forgetting, 32, yeah, I got so many numbers running around. So 641,000. We got $2 million in grants. And then,
Donation.
most of our, I think I'm counting that into that. And then, our vocational programs operate through revolving funds that are almost like a business enterprise fund. You get money in, they pay money out, like if you bring your car to automotive, they buy your part, then you pay them for it. And we charge a small service charge for that, which goes into their
5 or 6
revolvings,
programs, though.
which helps them fund other things. But without, and we have $1 million in allocation grants, so you figure, we're up around the 40.
Yeah.
49?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
And,
Quabbin's at 49.
and.
But there's only almost 1,500 kids that go to the school.
Yes,
That's
we have
it.
1,480. Well, but that also includes.
Oh, you're right, that
We have about
students.
1,450.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't
Yeah.
include your adult education programs or anything like that.
Not the continuing ed
No,
program, correct?
no.
Only the PN program.
Okay.
Which those operate separately as well through their, and our MVP program runs solely via grants right now too.
Yeah.
So,
I think
so
you-
without the grants, we would have a different budget as well in terms of,
Well, different services that we providing.
and what we could
What
purchase.
do you hear about the feds and, you know, now that we're not gonna have a Department of Ed?
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that's going for you. I mean, obviously, you're dependent on a lot of federal grants.
I mean, and I actually did talk about it, the only thing that's, we feel good that they do, we've heard that there's a lot of talk that allegedly for workforce training. So for instance, Perkins, you know, we do have a staff member that we pay through Perkins funds, but it also pays for our industry recognized credentials, a lot of equipment and everything.
Yes.
That would be entitled as well, but we were hearing that there's going to be support for Perkins. We don't, we need help, exactly.
It's all up.
Yeah. Gotta have hope.
Yes.
Yes, that's right. So that was my presentation. I know you've asked questions, we're going on, but we're happy to answer anything else. Sorry, I always take long.
No,
I always in
no.
my head.
A lot of
think I'm gonna
information.
go quicker.
I'll
I never do.
tell you, I mean, selfishly, you know, we're only a small portion of your budget, but I appreciate you giving us the same time that you probably give your biggest communities. So I think that's important, is being any sort of partner, right?
That's important, that's everybody else, all 18,
You know,
yes.
But this is sad, because this is our last finance committee presentation.
He must be, yeah, go out after this.
Well, I'm sad that he's not gonna hear my budget our budget
Oh, I'll have you over to the house. And you can-
Start prepping for next year,
I'll bring the
right?
neighbors over.
We still have town meetings,
Yeah.
we still go to all the
Oh,
town meetings,
correct.
so we've already had 5 tonight. The school committee members at Ashford here for us. And we have 1 tomorrow night, we have 4 on Sat, so we still have the town meetings.
See, May 17th is usually a pretty popular day for town meetings.
Yeah. And I
I
was
was
just,
driving up there, I'm seeing signs.
Yes,
Phillips,
you're
no,
June
Prince-
24th.
yeah, I was a little later
Princeton's
this year.
tomorrow, isn't it?
We should.
Princeton is next week.
Phillipston's tomorrow.
Princeton is next week, yes, yeah.
Quabbin, we have to be
The
ready.
thing that's amazing to me is they're running these town meetings and they
Yes.
don't have a
It's-
clue what they're getting from the House, and what they're getting from the Senate. So the districts have to be going in there with make-believe numbers, they have to be. And if they're lucky, they're lowballing everything, because if they don't, I think they.
Special town
Yeah.
meetings.
And so we've decided to be your last town,
Yeah,
24 and June.
yeah,
Because we know, you know, from your perspective, or if the other 4 towns voted, we're gonna own,
you own
we're
it.
gonna own that Quabbin budget. And so we wanna know what we're gonna own. We're gonna at least be way into the Senate budget. And we're gonna know what we,
That is,
how bad it's gonna be, or how good it's gonna be.
yeah.
I would imagine,
That's a smart tactic.
I would imagine there's some communities like Lunenburg, when you compare them versus Athol, and you see that they have about the same number of kids,
Yes,
and they pay double the cost.
yes, and that's that,
That's painful.
that's
That wealth
the
factor,
wealth
yeah.
factor that the state uses
That
to,
actually works.
and trust me, Bloomberg will agree with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
will.
they will. They will.
Because I'm sure they use that exact comparison that I did.
Similar, yes. Yep,
What's the furthest town from the school? Is it there?
Geographically,
Athol?
Harvard in
Athol's
one
close,
direction, I
Harvard in
think.
the other direction.
So you probably have some kids on the bus for like over an hour.
Oh, our first bus is pulling out of the yard by,
I think Barry
I
is
can
one
still
of our
refill the
first,
bus for over an hour.
Barry is one of our
What
first
time is she
pickups,
leaving?
yeah,
Okay.
She
Yeah.
gets on the bus at 6:15.
yeah. Barry is one of our first pickups. Yeah,
That
for
is-
Harvard,
and one of the last ones to arrive as well.
yeah. Harvard, we have
Bus-
vans,
bus
because they
six.
have only a few kids, I
Yeah.
know, so we bring them
they're
in
gonna get a
vans.
business school transportation.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you own the buses.
Vocational,
Oh, that's what-
school choice.
Yeah, school choice. Well, and does anybody else have any questions for us?
No, I look forward to your presentation every year.
Oh.
It's a good one.
It is
Yeah.
good presentation.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much.
I think it's an important work out there for the trades, because not everyone wants to go to college, and some folks just want to get out there in the workforce, and even some of these skilled trades where it's a kickstart to go into college, like you highlight there. I think that's important as well, so.
It's really hard for a lot of people to find employers. and, like,
Yeah.
People to employ.
We need it.
Really.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much, thank you for your time, we appreciate
yours.
that.
Have a safe ride.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, we don't have, I mean, we have Quabbin's budget, but I think we want to reach out to Quabbin And because I didn't hear, no one,
No, I talked to the superintendent via the phone,
okay,
and she indicated that she wanted her to come, but she would have come without her Tammy.
okay.
Yeah.
Because her Tammy's dad.
Yeah, no, understood, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I guess her dad had heart attack.
Yeah, no, things happen, we can always,
But they will be here whatever, pick the date and they will be here.
so I
Tom
think,
wouldn't come to this meeting if I couldn't make it.
Well, especially this is the first year without Cheryl.
yeah, she was a
Yeah.
big part of that budget. Let's see, so we have, let me look at my calendar here. And I think we're on the docket again for the 20th, but we have some time because the town meeting now is on the 24th. And has the select board opened the warrant yet for the town meeting?
Open the warrant will close on the 16th at 5 PM. We've got some stuff already that has been put forward to be on the warrant.
The 16th of June?
May.
16th of May.
Okay, so there's gonna be a month
Yeah.
to digest all the information.
So far, there's not a lot of money water articles at all that have been put forward. Some stuff that'll make people crazy, like no plastic bags, figured out. Maybe some-
I like the paper bags.
Well,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a chance?
Yeah, I have a bunch at the house if you guys need any.
You don't like the plastic bags hanging in all the
You
trees?
gotta cover
No,
some
no,
bucks.
no, I'll take the paper. You can burn them in the fireplace.
Yeah, break a glass, it's easy to dispose
Yeah,
of it.
So
absolutely.
you want me to say the 20th?
Yeah, what do we have on the 20th?
The 20th, I mean, we were gonna schedule to meet, to discuss the evolution of the budget, we were gonna start to prepare, our internal vote and on recommendations and make sure it's aligned with, town administrator. But we could always move that, cause last year town meeting was 2 weeks earlier, so we could always meet again on the 10th. I mean, we can meet anytime, whatever, we could
So we're meeting on the 20th.
meet on the 20th.
And
The
that's when you
next
want
would be
to
the
get done?
3rd.
Yeah, we'll have coffee
That's
on the
all we
20th.
have left, and so that'll only be, maybe 20 minutes, half hour.
Yeah, we'll have them, and then we can
Yeah.
have further discussion on any budget pieces.
I think that one of the really important things, at least from my perspective, and I don't know about you, Greg, but the need to ensure that you, the select board, the assessors, we all sit down and we say, what is the levy?
Mhm.
Okay?
Oh, yeah, get it right this year. Oh,
Yeah, right,
I
that'd be a nice opportunity for us. Because obviously, we have to look at receipts, if we have to lowball, maybe not anticipate more than we should. We have some new growth, we have this, we have that, but I think we all need to be on the same page and say, no, I don't think that number's right, I do think this is it. If we go this deep on, new growth, we could be in trouble. If we pull back too much, we'll be in trouble, because people will say, see, they're just trying to, make money on this. So I just really wanna make sure we're all on the same page, we feel good about it, and know how far, if we are going to be over 2.5. How far are we over 2.5, and what do we wanna do about that?
Do you want to set up a joint meeting at some point?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that.
Because I really think that's, after last year, that's so critical. And we're gonna be in between town administrators potentially again, and, he's gonna play catch-up, and it's really important for us to have that number and all go to the wall and understand what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I know for my schedule, Mondays are tough, but
Oh, yeah,
Tuesdays.
but the selectmen,
Yeah.
we're a little more flexible.
Mhm.
As Richie said last night, we're all retired, so we're like the field. So it's easier for us.
Yeah,
And if it is a Monday and we just dedicate that, at the select board, we'll do that. Or Tuesday, if you want us to come on Tuesday, whatever. My concern just is I wanna make sure the numbers are right.
yeah. So I think with the support of, Mr. Balakonis being kind of
Yeah.
back
Yeah,
in the saddle here, we get your recommendations. Well, what do you think, how much time will you need to get everything bundled up?
It's tough to predict because I've got to actually sit down and look at the revenues first,
Mm-hmm.
especially based upon what Maureen just said about the levy and everything. I'm presuming that was the reason for the issue last fall.
Yep. We do have Jesse did provide a levy forecast.
I guess, yeah. And I just wanna make sure we're all on board with it. When we go through it, we say, okay, that we're gonna live and die by this number. You know, we do have $165,000 of free cash that's still floating out here. That if we may wanna decide to have the special right before the annual and move that free cash around, we might. But that would be something to discuss. My real concern is, the fire truck that has been debt excluded, appears to be somewhere on route, whatever the hell that means. So, we're basically saying to the company, don't bring it in here until July 1st. Because we have we debt excluded it, so we're good with that. But, you know, I don't wanna have to move money around and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah, just
Yeah, someone, it comes too early, someone gives you a bill,
They give you a bill.
which creates a
I guess
problem.
it sits somewhere, and then it gets
The
set
rest-
up
well, we wanna
there,
make sure
built
it's
out
sitting
there,
somewhere.
and
Well, you
it
gotta
takes
sign to
months when
it.
it gets there,
You gotta
yeah.
sign to
Yeah.
I
receive
mean,
that,
I'm
right?
coming on board next week,
Okay.
so within, you know, within that 2 week, I'm trying to find the calendar, you know, by the end of that second week, I
We should
feel
be-
like I should be.
we should- The thing of it is, that you and I both know, whatever's coming in is gonna be over 2.5.
Oh, there's
There's
no,
no question about
between
How far are we
the
gonna
schools,
have, and what we decide to do about that.
$500,000.
You know, the schools, and we're not gonna be alone, I mean, every time around, what if we can
Yeah.
pass it 2.5, because what's plan B if we don't pass it?
It's gonna be drastic cuts.
Cuts.
Yeah, it's gonna, well, the problem is you can't get at the school.
Yeah, well,
You're not gonna be
that's
able to
what-
get out the school, and that's the place where the money is. I mean, right?
Yeah,
big money.
well, and there, the
But
school,
I will tell you that,
It's asking for a
that
chunk.
the district will work with you. I mean, they already know, because minimum local contribution for Barre went up over 11% from the state. Like, we can pay 11% more, and it went up, like, even more than that in New Braintree.
Yeah.
So my guess is New Braintree will be in huge trouble. And to fix New Braintree a little bit, to see if they can get them, they are gonna help us a lot. Because remember, you have to, they get 15 cents, or $15 on every 100,000, and Barre gets 40,000. So you cut $100,000 to give them 15, and it's not enough. So you cut another $100,000 to give them another 15, so they can get 30. And so Barre will be helped by New Braintree's troubles. I know that sounds mean, but it is what it is. So I don't think we're gonna see that 8% from Quabbin. I really don't. I think that they could by next week, because we know some things about regional transportation that we didn't know before this. So Barre will drive that number down.
well, and with rural aid though, like last year, they didn't use rural aid for any operating
Okay,
expense.
but because, that's, again, because we're, again, pushing new legislation about how it can be used. It needs to be used like we lose transportation. That we know we don't get it in September, we're gonna get it periodically through the year. It's based upon kids live and all that. And they already said that the formula's the same exact formula as it was last year, all we change is the number of kids. Right, you plug in where the kids live. And that's pretty stable. So they should, and they don't have to spend it. They used to say, we're gonna let you know what you have in November, and then suspend it by June. That's why they never used it. Now, we will have latitude to use it like a regular receipt that we can predict. So that will help the towns as well. And it looks like the House has put it in, so the Senate is usually very, thanks to Senator Comerford, is the western part of the state, that's where this is coming from. We should be okay with that, so that should help us. See, the Voc schools, their finances are so much easier. Okay, because there's so many towns,
Yeah.
and we have so few, relatively speaking, and everybody's has so few, there's only 300 kids from like Fitchburg.
Yeah.
Like Fitchburg goes, okay, whatever, right? And the same, so we have 40 kids, we can manage that. They can't cripple us with
No.
anything they do.
Well, they also have to deal with the high school kids, they have to deal with the elementary
Yeah.
schools and.
Yeah. And in addition to that, remember, they have more equal administrative staff to all the other regional schools around, but they're running a high school. They have no special ed kids to speak of at all, none that have substantial issues that have to be placed out.
Mhm.
They have no preschools,
Yep.
okay, they have no kindergartens, they have none of that.
Yeah.
And so, all of us all sit around and go, what the heck were we thinking? Monty Tech needed a superintendent at least 4 times in my history. And I never even gave it a thought. But everybody says, there's the place you want to be superintendent, because you're superintendent of a high school.
Yeah.
Really, now?
Well, kids that wanna be there too,
Well,
Yeah.
for the most part.
With minimal spend.
Yeah.
but you know what,
Totally
you know what the thing is, and I would never say this, are we still on?
Oh, yeah, we're still on.
Just think about this. Do you know when the kids come back from Monty Tech? Because they kinda don't like it, or they're not making one. They always stay till October 2. Why do you think that is? October 1 are the official enrollments that give you who's paying for whom. So, and so a lot of us, when we used to do the class list, would say, you gotta be kidding me. October 3rd, and I've got these 4 kids returning from Monty Tech.
Without their
With
money.
no money.
Yeah.
With no money,
Yeah, yeah.
because, so the money's already at Monty Tech. Not that I complained about it a
Yeah.
lot.
But do they get the kids on the wait list, do they get that opportunity at that point?
Not usually, because most of the time, they're so far into the program
Yeah.
that it's really hard to say, oh, just drop in and they miss all of the lab. You know what I mean? It's not just drop into algebra. It's drop into algebra and also, I don't know, car mechanic or electronics or vet tech.
Yeah, they have to pick.
It's
They have
really
to
hard.
pick. So like the whole thing is like,
Yeah.
they go to every single thing, then they pick 12, they get 9, they go to 9 for
Yeah.
9 weeks, and then they pick from that. But if they come in late, like a couple of Silver's friends have come in late, and they only are allowed to pick a few, and they go there for like a day, and
Yeah.
then they have to pick from there.
So it's hard. It's
The
like-
Yeah, it's like
exploratory,
really quick, yeah,
yeah.
the exploratory is like
Yeah.
very, very quick, and they have to like
Yeah.
hurry
When I was a
and
kid,
pick,
it
yeah.
was, you picked the shop, you got the shop, and
That
after
was it.
2
No,
months, I
there's
hated
A
welding.
lot of kids that
And
don't
then
get
there was an
picked.
opening in drafting, and I was like, oh, I'll go over there, and, I stuck it out because I liked it.
Return back to
Uh,
work.
Never tried it.
50%.
Drafting? Yeah.
50% of all of the kids go to 2 and 4
It
year
was
college.
definitely my favorite.
They
Yeah.
don't go into the trades.
I wish I stayed in welding,
And
though,
that's
it
why,
makes some serious money.
you know,
Look where
everybody
you're
says,
Yeah,
you know, we
Living
try to
the
get
dream.
more kids who want to stay in the trades, because they're just not staying there, they're going to 2-year and 4-year schools, and,
their
they end
college
up with
numbers are
you,
impressive.
And they're not helping drive a truck anymore.
Yeah, I don't do, my trade, I do as a hobby now, you know, I went for mechanics, and I was like, I
Yeah,
didn't wanna
see,
get dirty anymore, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, but it's hard for anybody who's 15 or 14 or 13 to say, this is what I wanna do for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
told both my kids they're being plumbers, so,
Well, it's a good gig if you can get it.
Yeah, even if just,
I
they
would
just
say,
went in the
I don't
trade.
know.
Well,
My answer would have been, I don't know.
But we had a discussion about 2.5 last night at the select board's meeting, just to say, you know, we may have to consider this, and they were so interested in the dam, they could have cared.
yeah, we're still talking about that dam? Oh, you
Now it
There's a
appears-
plot
Now it
twist.
appears that there may be somebody who owns the property.
Oh.
Oh, someone came forward that,
They didn't come forward, documents were spied, I don't think the people even know it could be theirs.
oh, like an
And
inheritance,
I'm
like
not positive that the documents are accurate, so.
I've run it down,
Oh, we're
I've
running
looked
it.
at obituaries, the person from Webster, and I
Okay,
found
so
the
have you found
spouse.
anything?
No, and
Yeah.
I've made a phone call, I have a friend that works at a registry of deeds who called in a favor at another registry of deeds, nothing, nothing.
That's
Yeah.
what the state says.
Yeah.
But we have documents that say there is a specific corporation.
Oh, yeah, no, there's a corporation.
Okay.
Yeah.
The corporation has all living people
Oh,
in Barre.
Oh,
That I will not name because it's
Yeah.
not.
so,
Yeah.
Because because it looks as if the people who own the property exercise this corporation thing. And we do have the corporation documents.
but the billing was going to Webster, and then that person was living in Millbury, and then that person died, and the wife was alive, and then when the wife died, I chased every last name down, and I can't
I
find
hope you're right,
I
and
do,
that we
I do,
know
yeah.
that it's.
I'm busy right now at work, though. But it's not
Because
busy, I have a lot to
it'll
do.
go to its death with a huge fight, and it'll be very interesting to see how this, I know how I'm doing, but I'm not saying anything, but I'm very clear how I'm doing.
yeah.
And, the other two people are probably just, you know, kind of getting their seats, I don't know where things will go, but,
Well, Very, very interesting.
It is very
We
interesting.
clearly can afford it.
So we'll convene again on the 20th of May with the hope to meet with the Quabbin Regional School District,
20th.
you know, given their emergency situation this evening.
And
And
maybe we can do a double thing and do, get the, you know, select board and do a joint meeting with the assessors.
yeah, we're open for that.
I mean, I don't, cause I don't
There's
think
nothing
it's
better
gonna
to do
take a
on
long
Tuesday
time.
night
I
than
just
the end
think,
of May.
I just think we all wanna look at those numbers,
One day
right?
page, yeah.
One day before.
So if we do it on the 20th, we do Quabbin and the numbers, so we do our numbers and
Yeah.
Quabbin come in a little later, whatever you want.
And then, or do we have anything past the 20th?
Well, we're gonna have to put something on the books for June,
Okay, so we haven't
because
done
we're
that.
gonna have to,
Because once you decide, even if you wanna fund the budget that's presented to you somehow, and you say, okay, what is that?
well,
number?
that's the
And
thing.
And, or back into the levy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not a great way to run a town, but if you're back into the levy, then what's the delta?
Yeah, and most of the departments did present two budgets the correct way. A couple departments went a little the other way. But there are some substantial increases that we can't avoid with the
I agree.
schools. Rutland Regional Dispatch, a small increase, but they had a big increase last year. With the district model, that'll save the town in the long run, but it's gonna be years before we see those savings realized, right?
We'll forget they existed when.
Yeah.
I think our health insurance is pretty large.
I've done two in the
Yeah.
past week, 21.55%, yeah, that was Harvard Pilgrim, and 10.5, which was a health and welfare fund through our union, which is disgusting in itself, but it wasn't 21. The 21, they talked down Harvard Pilgrim from 27, and, yeah. So they're throwing us COLAs that don't even cover the healthcare increase for some of the employees.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've been there, done
Yeah,
that.
it's,
And you know,
Back in the
we've
day.
still got negotiations with the fire department that we're gonna try to clean up, and, if you want an advanced life support system, you gotta have paramedics, and paramedics, the hourly rate certainly exceeds what we have for on-call fire.
so I saw a very different reaction when they talked about being self-insured. And yours was more of a caution, like you're gambling, and yours was like, oh, your numbers are good.
Yeah,
So would it save the town money?
We're not big enough.
we're too small.
Not big enough.
Okay.
And it-
Unless, in the old days, and I
Yeah.
don't think Quabbin would ever do it again.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, they-
towns would Quabbin and were self-insured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had a catastrophic rider, and because health insurance has always been up, really.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
then it became so difficult with the towns, because the towns started to fight over, Harvard would pay 90% of their thing, and someone would pay, only 50%. And so then the teachers are saying, well, what about us? And so then you negotiate with the teachers, so you had all these different players paying a different amount. And then you had some towns defaulting, because they couldn't pay it halfway through. We said, good, get away from us. So we just said, we're not interested. The last town to leave us was Hubbardston. Because we had Barre and everybody, and we didn't know the employees. That was really hard. We didn't know the employees, and so it was hard to build relationships with them, and so that was the only way. The towns were not big enough, and even with Quabbin having 400 employees, that still was not huge.
If you pull together the town employees in the 5 towns plus the school district,
Yeah.
you'd have buying power. But then now you're,
Yeah.
who's
And now you
managing
have
it?
Maya, and they supposedly have buying power.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it.
Mhm.
I remember that catastrophic attachment point being the key thing.
It was huge, huge.
It was, at one time, it was like, and I remember 15 years ago, it was $50,000. For them to say 65,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know, but the rider is huge, I mean.
Oh, it's more, it's all
I mean, it's
money.
up to $1 million
Oh,
bucks,
it's all-
just because people can't. But the thing that we felt very uncomfortable about it is that because we managed it ourselves, we had all kinds of information about our employees, which was really, because it's not like we had some other external employee that didn't know anybody, but we knew all this stuff, and that was very uncomfortable for us. I used to say, don't tell me.
I don't get names, but like when I'm bargaining, I'll reach out to the plan administrator and I'll say, who's using what? And within 5 minutes, he can say, 18% of the people go to this hospital, 18% are, like, yeah, and I don't wanna know names or anything,
Yeah.
but they have access to everything.
That's amazing. Technology.
Yeah.
It's kind of creepy. No, I mean, you're working right with these people, and you know things you do know.
So we should plan for, to do a joint meeting on the 20th
Yeah.
with
And if
Quabbin.
you want, we can take care of that, getting people notified and getting them to post the meeting and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And you guys can run it?
Yeah, I can ping Sandy or whatnot.
Okay. So May 20, and so I'll have.
We usually meet at 6:30.
Yeah, so I'll either see if Quabbin wants to come later, or if they wanna come first, or whatever. In deference to maybe this, the assessors, we could go first with the information on, like, you know, whether we're gonna override what the levy looks like, and then have Quabbin come in. Quabbin just says Quabbin's numbers.
Yeah, I mean, if they can give a better number than 8%,
Oh, they're
but
gonna give you that number.
if it's,
Absolutely.
it's still gonna be a big number.
It's still gonna be a big number.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a big number, even if it's 3%, it's a big number.
Well, because it keeps growing, so 3% gets bigger and bigger every
Bigger
year. Yeah.
Is the DPW contract settled?
Well, yeah, that little
Yeah.
group that we had, yes. Well, let's put it this way, we're finalizing the numbers, the select board has taken,
Yep.
the 3 votes for that last night, so.
And they got
Yeah.
ratified on their end.
Yeah, and they have to ratify them there, and, that will not impact, that will not make a big impact on much of anything. Because it's very few people, and it's just an extraordinary circumstance, so that's not gonna be a big issue. Now, of course, their contract ends next year, so that will be challenging.
Make it fun, something fun for next year.
Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Fun for next year.
I don't really have much, other than that. We talked about the open meeting law. If you weren't able to attend, I'd recommend going through that training, signing off on it, get back to Ellen.
We had huge attendance, I thought that was great.
It was big.
Yeah, I was stuck in Maine. I've been
Oh, no, I mean,
ping
we
ponging.
had a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was
What'd you say,
packed
100
room.
people?
Yeah.
Packed house.
Oh, yeah,
I heard it was warm
We
in
were
the room.
parked in the lawn.
Yeah.
There was-
Last
there was a
night I
baseball
was
game
warm
going
here.
on at the same time.
Like, that doesn't work?
It does.
Oh, it was like a sauna in here last night.
Oh, well,
No.
it was a huge crowd with a lot of hot air,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, really, that's what.
I was confused by I've actually given you guys crap for the amount of meetings you've had on parks. And for somebody to say there have been no meetings on parks, I was
I can't
shocked.
win.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've had a lot of meetings on parks.
Yeah.
Parks, on-site parks.
yeah, multiple on-site parks,
Yeah.
same day you did a couple,
Yeah.
you've gone to both parks multiple
Several
times. Yep.
And they said, well, we didn't see you at the park. Well, if you don't see that we're supposed to be meeting at the park.
Yeah.
You gotta pay
Some of those
attention.
meetings were pretty rough, because some people do not want their children anywhere near where they live.
Tell me you put pickleball there instead.
Oh, well, you know what, people say that, they say, yeah.
Exactly.
And then, because people wanted us to put that at Felton Field, which would be fine. The problem with Felton Field is there's a lot of vandalism there unless, everything's locked down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because it's so isolated.
Worcester came under some hot water, building a couple pickleball
Sure.
courts
People
with
are
ARPA
very-
money. I
people are
think they're gonna
very
pay it
angry
back.
with
Yeah.
The camera.
Well, yeah, I'm ready. I mean, I've been waiting to spin on a motion. I'll sit here all night.
Okay, so we'll see you.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
We have a motion to adjourn? A motion second, all in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
We'll be here.